not just generators of electricity, but also free energy motors. I'll explain what free energy is in a second. And free energy engines, they're different. They have different uses and different purposes, so I'll explain all that. Not just right now, but that aspect of my life didn't start till 2005 when I invented my first free energy generator of electricity. But I was still working as a paralegal, still raising children, so I couldn't really divert my time into full-time development of free energy systems until I retired at 62. And then I started full-time doing that, and I'm on my sixth patent. I just filed my sixth patent on December 9th, and I just got confirmation today from the U.S. Patent Office that that's good worldwide, and that's a very important confirmation, the one that says that it's good worldwide. And,
congratulations. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Please go on. That's exciting.
Anyway, so the history that you're interested in was that history, my inventor history.
Yes.
But if there's other aspects, I mean, I worked in law most of my professional career. I worked in law as a paralegal. So that's a completely different history, but it gives me a major leg up in the physics and electrical engineering arena because I'm able to write my own patents at a very high level. Most inventors, they have to try to explain it to attorneys, and then the attorneys have to try to translate that into a patent, and they don't have the technical experience to be able to correctly relate what the inventor is telling them. I don't have to do that. I'm one and the same person. I write my own patents.
Amazing.
Anyway,
that's wonderful. So you're the only one we know. I don't know. Yeah, no, we love the author of your own life story in 3D. So we love to bring it down where people can hear you and know that you're a real person, Dan. And
yeah.
Now, do you go by Daniel or Dan? What's your preference?
Dan Cooper. I just go short, Dan Cooper. Everybody used to call me Danny when I was a kid, but I always hated that because I don't know why I hated it. It's fine, it'd be called Danny, but Danny's short and it's easy. This is a very interesting time in history during, in disclosure, the powers that be, the interplanetary corporate conglomerate, what most people will be calling the secret space program, eventually evolved into the interplanetary corporate conglomerate, which is what they like to call themselves. This is a very interesting time. They don't really want to release hard evidence of the existence of aliens or the existence of their level of technology or their travels throughout the galaxy. They don't want to release any of the hard evidence to that aspect. They're just allowing soft evidence release, which is really not provable. But they are formally releasing hard evidence of free energy systems, for real. That's what's so exciting about this particular time, because that's really the first secret space program evidence, hard evidence, real, irrefutable, take it to court, absolute hard evidence of the existence of all that other stuff that's being presented in soft disclosure. The hard disclosure is starting with the release of free energy systems, and that began in November of 2017 with the release of the NASA's peer review. Ken, you love that one. NASA's peer review of the M drive, EMDRIVE. Shire's invention, he filed in 1999. He got the patent on it in August 2017 from the British government. And then the United States, NASA released their peer review, which they had completed back in September 2016, but they didn't actually release it until November of 2017. NASA's peer review of the M drive. So I actually will dumb it down for you. It's nice if you go and read the article, see all that calculus, and read through it. It'll confuse you greatly. But I will explain how it works in very simple terms.
Go for it.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very significant moment in history, because what the United States is doing, the United States government is doing, is they're basically saying, this is now released. Free energy systems are now released to the public. They're real. Here's the mathematical proof of it. And, you can expect these systems to be coming out. And since I'm an inventor in these systems, I can explain what to expect and anticipate to be released over the next, between now and the next 10 years. I know what's going to be released. I'm inventing a lot of it, so I know what's going to be released. I've been following the other inventors, which you have to do when you're patenting. You have to make sure no one else has patented what you're trying to patent, or you can't get a patent on.
Amazing. You're a lot like Einstein. Go ahead, Ken. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Of course, I left NASA back in 1980, so the experience I had back then is that it was pretty hard to get them to come across and review anything that came from outside of the sacred hollows of NASA.
Yeah.
But then
yeah,
now I
everything.
Go.
Yeah. Everything was secret, Ken. Yes.
Yeah, it was back then, I suppose, and I'm sure it is now because I've had to deal with coming forward with all the information material that I've kept secret for all these years. And of course, when you have those clearances, you've got to maintain those until you get to the point that it's beyond your ability to keep things any longer. But that's fascinating. What about? Did you get any information looking at Tesla's? What information you get from Tesla's research and the zero-point energy that he was creating way back when, before they impounded it and took it away from him? Were you able to get some of that information?
Yes. I have a lot of Tesla's information. I've done a lot of research, and I have all of Tesla's information. I know what they released officially on Tesla, and what they haven't released officially on Tesla. I know of his work, and I can describe his work.
Oh, were you able to?
Yes.
Actually able to get a hold of some of his original research and the papers and documentation? Because I understand that when they came in, they just took everything away, and so that the conglomerate of the oil moguls in the world that control the power.
Well, they basically subsumed him into the secret space program, and that's where he worked from 1929 all the way to his death. When was that, in 40-something or 50-something, wasn't it, when he died? Anyway, he worked in the secret space program. He got pulled into the secret space program in 1929. He worked for the United States military at the highest level, and they did a lot of work together. Worked on a lot of very interesting things. I know what he worked on because I worked in those fields, so I know exactly what he worked on.
I'm still playing catch up because when I was involved with the NASA and the rest of them at the time, none of the information was coming out, and now there's so many people that have kind of done the same thing I did with regards to did we find any evidence of extraterrestrials on the moon or on Mars or what have you. All those things are now coming out, but now information on zero-point energy and stuff like that, I haven't had the opportunity to research that very much, but now I can tell. I live out in the country. I'm about ready to use one of your devices on my farm.
Yeah, that's officially. Well, I have it. They're not manufacturing them yet. They are. They are manufacturing them, but they're not. They're not very powerful ones yet. They are manufacturing. Beacon Power manufactures flywheel over unity free energy generators, which have a 4 COP of 4, basically 1 watt in, 4 watts out, 3 watts over unity. And that's the flywheel generators they have on the grid out in Pennsylvania, and then their Beacon Energy is now putting several of those up in the East Coast, large ones, the large grid-sized ones. And so those are in existence. And then there is the buoyancy kinetic generators of originally Gaia Energy. They sold out to Roche Energy, I believe it is, and they're in 10 different countries now, and they're making 50-megawatt generators. So these are out. They're not nearly as powerful as the ones I have developed. So I know what's coming out because I'm patenting the next generation of these generators. But they were officially released by the United States in November of 2017 in the article NASA's peer review of the M-Drive, EMDRIVE. It's out. It's official.
It's amazing that it wouldn't have been the number one item on the news and everywhere around it. Everybody had known about it, but it's still kind of keep it silent and muffled down. And I'd say the average person on the street, or even listening in tonight, were not even aware because they kept it secret.
Well, they're not. They're still having issues with China because they had thought they had an agreement with China as far as how the development would go, and they don't. And so, there's been a little hiccups here and there, so they're not really saying too much. I mean, nobody's getting out on the news and saying, look, NASA released the information, it's official now, free energy is going to be released. They're not really saying that because they don't quite know how it's going to go. I know how it's going to go because of people who are coming to me and saying, well, can you make this, can you make that? And so I know how it's going to go, but they're still having this problem with they haven't got a hard agreement with China. We'll see that. We'll see how that goes. I mean, they don't have a reliable agreement with China yet, as far as the development, how they're going to coordinate the release of these generators.
That's usually to be expected when you're getting agreements with China. You really got to have
China wants to own it all. The United States wants to own it all, and they're not coming together. I might be involved in negotiations. We'll see. I don't know. I'm a small person, so we'll see.
What was your inspiration for your version of this technology? Where did you come up with this idea?
Solid state. Let's see. Well, I started researching to the patent library, and I ran across. I started looking at solid state ways of doing it. I realized that you didn't have to actually move something physically in order to get a coil to go past a magnet. If you move a coil past a magnet, it generates electricity in the coil. It's called induction. When you physically move a coil past a permanent magnet, or you physically move a permanent magnet across a coil, it induces an electric current in the coil. And that's how all generators work. The wind generators, they're running coils past magnets. And that's how electricity is really generated, hydroelectric and all that. That's where we get most of our electric generation, is in that moving a coil of wire, magnetic wire past a permanent magnet. But you don't have to physically move something in order to get that to happen. If you can, without physical movement, merely move the magnetic wave, then nothing has to move physically. And so I started going in that direction, and I started going through the patent library to see if anybody had patented that. And I pulled down hundreds of patents that go way back into the 20s, actually. And then I pulled down Tesla's original work as much as I could find. None of the complete patents are there; just pieces are left. All Tesla's patents were retyped in the 50s, and everything that's important was kept out. But there's still enough. There was still enough here and there I could pick up on Tesla's work and a number of about 100 other inventors in what we call solid-state magnetic energy, free energy generators with magnetic energy. And then from reviewing those patents and studying those patents in depth, I was able to solve their problems. They each have problems. Each of the ones the patents I reviewed have inherent problems that make them very short-lived. It's a lot like Edison with the light bulb. He actually, there were actually almost 1,000 inventors that he had gotten their light bulbs from, that they just wouldn't last anything longer than a few minutes. And Edison's group actually figured out how to make it last, 100 hours as opposed to a few minutes, and then they went from there. So, there are a lot of free energy generators that have been patented. They just don't last very long. Your objective is to get it to last 30 years, which is the life expectancy of a transformer, which is a solid-state device. Most solid-state devices they have 30-year guarantees. They'll last 30 years. That's what you want. You want a magnetic energy powered free energy generator that will last 30 years. That's what you want. You also want it to be low in price. That was one of the other objectives I had. Is a lot of people were coming up with very expensive ways of solving the problem, and that doesn't really work either, because that won't beat coal-fired energy generators, which are at 5 cents a kilowatt hour. You have to be far below 5 cents a kilowatt hour in order to make it pencil. No one's going to buy it unless it's far lower than 5 cents a kilowatt hour. So I had a lot of problems to solve. It took me a few years to work it out, but I did.
Now, did you do any research into? We get into UFOs and what might power them as far as intergalactic energy, and I discovered
the sixth force and the seventh force. I independently derived those two forces, and those two forces are still not going to be released by the United States military. So, I can tell you what's been publicly released by Lockheed Martin. I can show you what's been publicly released by Lockheed Martin. I can show you the two patents that Nikola Tesla put up in 1927 and were awarded 28 using the 6 force.